You know, Rob, one of the big stories, of course, this last year and a half has obviously been the pandemic. And for those of us in movie circles, how that pandemic has affected the movie industry. And we've been really gratefully been able to see that slowly but surely the recovery of the movie industry and the theatrical industry. We had things like the big hit of Quiet Place 2, which did great. Then F9, a movie neither you or I liked, but F9 came out and did fantastic business at the box office, made $70 million opening weekend, blowing away any previous film, the biggest opening since Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker pre-pandemic, and it did great. So we've been anxiously waiting to see how a Black Widow would do. Now, there have been predictions that Black Widow could hit anywhere from $70 to $85 million opening weekend, which would exceed that of F9, and again, be another great step towards the full recovery of the theatrical industry. There are a few things going against it, of course, not the least of which the fact that Disney is still doing that idiotic premium release thing on Disney Plus, where you got to be a Disney Plus member and you got to pay $30 on top of that, and you don't even get a theatrical experience. But whatever, you know, some people are, and maybe a bunch of people are going to take advantage of that as well. So how big could it be? Well, apparently the answer is pretty big, because keep this in mind. The opening night numbers for Fast 9, opening night, was $7.1 million in box office opening night. That was a pandemic record. Since the pandemic era started, that was a record for an opening night at the box office. Black Widow was interesting. How was it going to do? Well, now we know. Black Widow came out and almost doubled that amount. They nearly doubled that amount with $13.2 million. Fast 9, which opened to $70 million, came out of the gate with 7.1, a pandemic era record. Everybody was celebrating, and for sure it was a terrific result for it. I don't think, Rob, and even the most optimistic of people, and I know you have been very optimistic about how Black Widow could do, but I don't know that even the most optimistic of person would have foresaw that Black Widow would come close to doubling the opening night results of Fast 9. Now, before anybody gets ahead of themselves, I'm sure right now there are a bunch of people thinking, well, that means this thing's going to make double the box office opening weekend. It's going to make 140 million opening weekend. Since, you know, Fast 9 did 70, it nearly doubled it. This thing could get close to 140. All this really means is that there was a lot of people anxious to get out and see it on its first available night. It doesn't necessarily mean that that Friday will also have double the numbers, and then Saturday will also have double the numbers, and Sunday will also have double the numbers. You're not going to see Black Widow making 140 million opening weekend. But, Rob, you and I had a discussion just a couple of days ago about whether Black Widow could realistically hit that $100 million mark, even though the projections were around 85. They've now adjusted that and said they're projecting 80 to $90 million. And Rob, you and I both said that it had a very good chance, but you went even further. You said it will make 100 million or more opening weekend. These numbers seem to bode very well for that prediction. Rob, you're seeing this makes nearly double that what F9 did on its opening night. An absolutely spectacular result. What's your evaluation of this, and how does this alter your perception about the chances Black Widow has of actually cracking $100 million opening weekend?
Well, you know, to me, it's kind of, to be honest, it's kind of what I expected. And I think, you know, people haven't seen a big Marvel movie in a long time, coupled with the fact that, you know, a lot of people underestimated Captain Marvel, which made over $1 billion. And I said, look, the simple fact that you've got a movie that moms and daughters can go see together. And that is something that isn't normally taken into consideration with big budget genre films. And there's the element of family in this as well that has been all the reviews and the people that have written articles about this movie have come down on heavily. And the sisterly bonds between Yelena and Natasha here. I think that the female audience is always underestimated for movies like this. And that's why, you know, I think that it's kind of what I expected. We'll see. It really comes down to how do people like the movie? And I've read a lot of, you know, there's been, of course, a lot of pundits in our space who've talked about, oh, it's not so good. But I haven't seen a lot of female pundits say that. And I think that sometimes we as men might miss when you have films films like this that is about female bonding and two women working together to kick some ass, that we underestimate how important this is to the sisters that live on this planet that love this kind of stuff and are an underserved audience. So I stand by my prediction, John. I want to believe it's going to make 100 million, but that's only if the audience digs it. But I'm sticking by it. Sticking by it.
Well, in asking the question about how does the audience take it, it's not just the female audience. Like, as of right now, this thing is still holding over 80% on Rotten Tomatoes. But now that audiences have actually starting to see it, remember, Rotten Tomatoes now has verified user ratings, meaning only people who can verify that they bought a ticket to see the movie through Fandango can register a vote. So it prevents review bombing, or at least to a big degree prevents review bombing. And look at this. Black Widow's got an 81% critic rating, but it's currently holding a 94% audience rating. 94%. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody who saw it thinks it's a 9 out of 10 movie, but it means at least 94% of the audience is saying, we like this movie. I mean, that's huge, because I like Black Widow. You know, I did my review for Black Widow. I like this movie. I don't think it's top shelf MCU, but it's a solid movie. David Harbour was absolutely fantastic in it. I thought he was great. The family dynamics I thought really good. I thought the villain was a letdown, but overall it was a solid movie. But I didn't expect the audience score to be that high. I was expecting like 70 to 75%, which still would be great. That would still be very good. But the thing is holding an 81% and a 94% audience. I mean, so apparently the word of mouth on this thing is going to be strong. Rob, let me ask you this now, just to put the fire to your feet a little bit. I'm going to set a number here, an over-under number. Over or under, Black Widow will make $112 million opening weekend. Over or under that? That's a tough one, right?
I'm gonna go under. Look, I've already set my bar high enough. I can't go further. I can't go more, John.
Listen, I was before thinking this movie's got a shot at $100 million. I think I set it at like 40% or something like that. I'm now going to go over 50% that's going to make, but I would also take under 112. I don't think it's going to make 112, but oh my God, the fact that this thing could make $100 million, even if it doesn't, I mean, even if this thing hits like $95 million, it's impressive. The question is for you guys, what do you think about these numbers for Black Widow? I mean, Fast 9 set the record. It was great bringing people back into the theaters for opening night with like $7.1 million for its opening night. Black Widow almost doubles it at 13.2. What are you guys thinking? How big do you think the overall opening weekend for this film can be? Whatever you guys think, jump on down into the comment section below and let us know your thoughts.